Hey guys, it's Ashley. Welcome back to my channel. Today I wanted to share some very exciting Disney news with you. This has been a long time coming and I'm very excited to share, and so I'm glad that you're here. So if you know anything about me, if you've seen anything on this channel for any length of time, you know that our family loves Disney. We love the culture of Disney. We especially love visiting Disney World in Florida, and it's just part of our family. It's just a big part of our family culture. And we typically have visited Disney World almost every year to 18 months. That's kind of been our pattern over the last, 13 or so years. Kurt and I have been married 13 years, and we have somehow managed to do a Disney trip about every 12 to 18 months on average. And we have done a variety of things over the years as far as accommodations and how we do that. And where we have stayed off property, on property. And then in the most recent years, we had decided to start renting Disney Vacation Club points. And if you're not familiar with DVC, it is Disney's timeshare program, basically. And you basically have a set number of points per year. And those points, if you own them, you can rent them out, you can use them for yourself. There's lots of different ins and outs that you can use with those points. But the point is that you can use those how you see fit. So you're basically prepaying for a vacation. Well, over the years, Kurt and I, when this kind of emerged on the scene more, hearing about DVC, I, of course, being all in with everything Disney, was telling Kurt, maybe we should look into this. Maybe this is something we should do. And we did the math, and we initially decided to rent points to basically see how it felt to stay in a Disney Vacation Club property, and also to experience a larger room, basically your suite. And with Disney Vacation Club properties, you typically can choose studio, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, even some 3 bedroom suites and grand villas that they have available. And so we wanted to kind of test the waters before we made any sort of decision. So I'm condensing a lot, but we basically did that for several trips. We rented points privately through a DVC owner. He was fantastic to work with, and it was basically a private transaction. So we would rent the points from him, and he would then make our reservations for us as far as accommodations go. I still bought our theme park tickets. I still did all of our dining reservations. He was just helping us with the accommodations that we were going to stay in. So it worked perfectly. It was always very smooth. We loved the DVC atmosphere. It was a hotel-like. I mean, you feel like you're definitely there at a Disney property, hotel-wise, but it just was so nice and new, and it felt roomy. We had room to breathe because we are a large family. And when we started renting points, we weren't even as large as we are now. We have 5 children now, but when we started renting, we only had 2 children because we needed more space for in-laws and extended family to stay with us. So that was the purpose behind initially renting, was saying, okay, let's try this out, number 1. Number 2, let's see how it is with these bigger accommodations. So we fell in love with it. However, we could never make the math work for our family. Kurt is a numbers guy. He is so big on logistics. He researches so thoroughly and so well, and we could never make the math work for us. Between the maintenance fees and the cost of it all and financing and all of that, it never made sense for us. And what we had typically heard was that it made more sense for people that were visiting Disney more than, once a year. If you were going about twice a year, then people said, typically this makes sense. And especially if you like staying in more deluxe type of properties, that was kind of the word that we were getting overall in our research. And so we would periodically look into it. We would, continue renting points and all that. Well, fast forward to this most recent trip that we were looking into taking, and this was prior to COVID and all of that. We were looking to take a trip, and knowing the size of property that we would need, or size of suite that we would need, I went ahead and was trying to get that booked. So the way that rentals work is that you can either contact an owner privately and work it out with them as a private transaction, but more often there's a middleman. There are companies that are basically DVC rental companies, and you put in your information for when you're wanting to go, how long you're wanting to stay, all that kind of information. And then this middleman basically matches you up with the right owner that you can rent from. And so obviously the middleman takes a cut, you know, the prices are gonna be a little bit higher that way, but the convenience factor is there. You just put in your information, you wait and see what they say, and it goes from there very, very smoothly typically. So I put in our information. We were wanting to go this winter, and I put in the information, and it did not work out to work with the private owner that we had worked with before. So I put in our information and I get this quote back, and I'll be very honest, you guys, it was alarming. The cost of what it would be for us to rent the DVC points was really high. So Kurt decided to dive in and really get a handle on the current market with DVC. And there's two ways that you can buy a DVC contract. You can go directly through Disney, or you can do a resale situation where you're buying again from a owner, a private transaction. And so pros and cons to both. And we were looking into both. We wanted to see the benefits of buying directly from Disney, but we also wanted to research the resale market as well. So in crunching numbers, Kurt found that a lot of people were wanting to unload their contracts. And it made sense. This was right around the time that COVID was really starting to kick into gear, and people's lives were uncertain. You know, they still are. And I think that a lot of people were wanting to unload their contracts just because it made sense for their family to do that. And so Kurt started to look into, you know, different types of contracts, use year, how many points were loaded onto the contract, the point at which contracts would be snatched up, you know, looking at the trends in pricing and things like that. And the way it works is that it's priced per point. So basically you have to do some research and you have to figure out how many points you would typically need for your family. We were kind of looking in the range of mid 300s. We wanted to look at kind of, you know, 300 to 400 points. We knew that was kind of the range of what we might typically need. And so we were kind of looking at contracts in that range. Well, there, you know, trends emerge when you're starting to look at research and contracts and all of that. And Kurt saw that at a certain price point, contracts were snatched up. When they reached a certain point or dollar value, they would be snatched up. So the next thing I knew, you know, we were kind of throwing it out there. Yeah, you know, let's look at it again, blah, blah. Literally, you guys, in a blink of an eye, he says, you know, we were sitting down at night after the kids had gone to bed, and he said, you know, I think I might have found us a contract. And I said, I'm sorry, what? Like, it really went from DVC does not work for us to this is something we should probably do. And he talked me through the math, he talked me through the numbers, and he said, you know, ultimately, the amount that we would spend to rent these points, that would take us pretty far in, you know, paying towards our own points, owning those for ourselves, and, you know, being able to use those as we see fit over the years. And so he found this contract, and it works very differently with every contract, but basically certain contracts are either stripped or they're loaded. And a stripped contract means that you're buying points, but the actual contract that you're getting, there's not any points that you can really use right then. You have to wait because they've either used up all the points for that year or something like that. With DVC points, you can bank and borrow, meaning you can save the points if you're not going to use them, or you can borrow points from a, you know, future year to then have a bigger, better, longer vacation. You fill in the blank. So certain contracts, you have to be very careful when you're looking at these because they will either be, you know, normal contracts, stripped, loaded. There's so much, you guys, that you just have to look into. And so we we're also looking at Grand Floridian as our home resort because that's our favorite place to stay. Bottom line, we love the convenience, we love the feel of it. That's what we've become used to. And the way that it works is that you basically purchase at a home resort, but you can stay at any, within reason, you can stay at any of the vacation club properties, but you basically have booking priority at your home resort. So that's why it was important to us to have a Grand Floridian contract, because we wanted to be able to book our vacation 11 months out as opposed to just 7 months out if it's not our home resort. So that's another side note of what it's important to look for in a contract. But Kurt found a contract for Grand Floridian, and it was 320 points, but the contract came loaded, meaning there was around 600 to 700 points already on that contract that were usable points. And so the price point was good. He kind of monitored it for a little bit and he said, you know what? I think we should jump. I think we should try it. The next thing you knew, we were making an offer on this contract, and it felt like real estate. It felt like, you know, we were negotiating, we were dealing with a broker, and so we ended up jumping on it. And the reason we jumped on it with resale instead of going through Disney is because the perks that Disney is offering do not justify the higher cost. So it is much more expensive to buy directly through Disney. There are benefits, what some would consider perks. For us, those did not make sense, and they constantly change. And so you have to look at, you know, currently, what is Disney offering as perks for buying directly through them, and what, you know, are the benefits of doing resale. For us, we knew that resale was the way to go very quickly for us. But for everyone, that's different. So we decided to jump in and make an offer, and our offer was accepted. And we went a little bit below what the asking price was, but the seller accepted. And the next thing you knew, we were doing electronic paperwork. And with Disney, when you buy directly from Disney, financing, that's one of the differences. It's almost an instant transaction with Disney. You almost immediately are in their system. It goes very, very quickly. With resale, it's a longer process. So we had to, you know, obviously get the financing in order. We had to sign a bunch of paperwork. It was a lot of back and forth. And then after we had signed the paperwork, you go into what is called the right of first refusal period. So Disney reserves the right of first refusal, meaning every contract that is done through resale has to go through Disney for approval. So they have the right to basically snatch up your contract, so to speak. And if they want to buy those points out from under you, they can. So you go into this waiting period. They say it's 30 days. For us, it was longer. It was closer to 35 to 40 days that we waited. So we signed everything. Everything was agreed upon. We did everything electronically, and we went into this waiting period. So we had to wait to hear from Disney, and that can be kind of a long wait, you know, and we were keeping busy with the kids and all that, but every day I was thinking, oh my gosh, like I wonder if it's going to work out, and you just don't know. So I got word from Kurt. He would kind of keep me abreast of things, but they basically said that due to COVID and being, you know, lower staffed during this time, things were taking longer. So that's why it was longer than 30 days. So Disney approved the contract. They said, this looks fine, but we're going to wait to give you these points in keeping things how they need to be structured with all the points available to our DVC members. And so we are waiting now. We are going to put our payment through in the next day or two, but everything has been agreed upon. And once that funding arrives to them, then it's basically a done deal. And at that point, we're just waiting to be put officially into the DVC system. So that's our news. We joined DVC, it's official. And it's not something that I ever thought that we would do. It ended up working out for us. It ended up making sense. And we were able to do the math in such a way that, you know, we were like, this is a better investment, you know, for our future vacations, because we know that we're always going to go back to Disney World. We know that that's a vacation spot for our family that will not change. Things are uncertain right now, but with the timing of all of this, it actually gave some breathing room because Disney World has been closed, as we all know, and it kind of gave a buffer, you know, because we weren't hurrying to try to book a vacation necessarily. So once our points get into the system, I think that's going to give us a better view of what's happening with the parks anyway and figuring out the best time for our family to go. There are some uncertainties, obviously, with how things will go for our family visiting just because of the different requirements. We have very young children, and so the mask requirement would be a challenge, I think, but it's understandable. They have precautions in place, and so we're just trying to weigh it out and see. But the point is that we now have points that we can use, and we can use them how we see fit. So if we want to change the time of year that we go, at different times of year, ask for a different point amount, basically. So we will have a certain number of points to use every year, and our use year is August, and so those will release to us every August, and we just have to, you know, bank and borrow or use those points as we see fit. So there's a lot of ins and outs with DVC, and I did not remotely touch on all of it here, but a great resource that I found was my dear friend Jen Lefforge. I'm honored to call her a personal friend, but she is actually the person that got us interested again in looking at DVC and really understanding the ins and outs of it. And so I will definitely link her information below. She is so knowledgeable, and she's been a member for a very long time. So her videos are tremendously helpful, but I wanted to just share my experience with you because we went from being a no way family to yes, this makes sense very quickly, actually. And we had been monitoring the DVC market for many years, but every time we came up empty as far as reasons to actually jump in and join. But now it makes sense for us. And you have to look at that for your family, your personal finances, what things look like for you vacation-wise, how you typically vacation. And a big factor for us too, as I mentioned before, was the size of our family. So in needing bigger accommodations, this makes sense for us because otherwise we would be looking at needing to get 2 standard hotel rooms that, you know, probably adjoin in a hotel. And so for us, it's very desirable that we have a suite that can house all of us whenever we go visit. And we also have the option of taking all of our extended family with us and being able to stay all together. And there's so many different ways to use your points and to make that work for the vacation that you need and desire. So there is flexibility in using those, and it's exciting, you know, and we're very excited to be members now. And again, it's not something that I expected that we would do, but now that we are officially in and things are signed and Disney has approved it, we're in the last and final steps. And so I thought it'd be interesting just to share with you guys what our process looked like, how it went for us, and I hope this has been helpful. So if you have any questions, I can definitely do my best to answer. So leave your questions and comments below, and I hope you stay tuned. I will definitely talk you through kind of how it goes for us, and when we do have a trip on the books, I can't wait to share those details with you. And I think that we are all excited about the possibility of resuming our Disney life, if that makes sense. I think those of us that love to visit the parks especially, it's exciting and hopeful that a reopening is happening, and I think that there's a lot of fun trips for us all in the future. So I hope you will stay here, subscribe to my channel for more videos, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.